Why is New Zealand taking this step?
Well, largely because the New Zealand government believes the world is becoming a much more dangerous and uncertain place. Judith Collins, the Defence Minister, stood up with Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, yesterday making this announcement, and she pointed to two events that had catalysed thinking in Wellington. In particular, when China shot an intercontinental ballistic missile over the Pacific earlier this year. And then more recently, of course, and Australian viewers will remember this too, when that Chinese naval flotilla with 3 vessels came and circumnavigated much of Australia, as well as conducting those live fire exercises in the Tasman Strait, sort of halfway between Australia and New Zealand. Now, Judith Collins says that was a reminder that distance was no longer any guarantee of protection for New Zealand. She said that much more money needed to be poured into defence to ensure it has the capabilities that it needs. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Distance certainly is no longer any protection for New Zealand. Not when we have an intercontinental ballistic missile launched in the South Pacific. Not when ships with enormous strike power come into our backyard. This reality requires us not only to work with others who share our values and interests to reduce the possibility of conflict, but also to prepare ourselves should the worst happen.
So, Stephen, what will the money be spent on?
Well, on a whole range of things. New Zealand wants to use some of this money, and it's about $9 billion over the next 4 years, so a fairly substantial investment, particularly for New Zealand, which we have to remember has an economy only about the same size as Queensland in total. That money will be spent on things like new helicopters. The other thing it will be spent on will be boosting retention. At the moment, there's a shortfall just in recruitment numbers, the number of people who are actually willing to sign up for the NZDF, as well as in bolstering their strike capability. In other words, bolstering some of the missiles that they have in order to give themselves the capability to hit things like enemy vessels at longer distances. Now, a lot of these decisions have not yet been finalised. What this report does is it scopes out quite a few of these options, so this will play out over time. Nonetheless, by taking defence spending from 1% to, well, just over 1% to around 2% by 2032 or so, New Zealand is making it very clear that it believes the status quo can't continue and that it needs to pour more money into its own self-defence.